we're entering the world of men. We kind of got a taste of this when Éomer met Aragorn a few chapters ago, but things are getting ever more like political and mannish and warlike. Like they're actually having to find helmets. We haven't had to think so much in terms of actual war and strategy and where are we going to put the women folk and all that kind of thing that we're going to start talking about now.
They've got to deal with Wormtongue.
Actually, I got to ask, speaking of Wormtongue, it's funny that he's a counselor to the king of this great land, and yet his name's Wormtongue.
Well, that's what they call him.
I know. But don't you think that's giving the game away?
Well, kind of. That does give the game away. That telegraphs a punch because it's like, they've got to deal with that whole kind of treacherous kind of.
Right. I mean, like, for instance, we could have seen Boromir as a kind of source of treachery in a way, but he was never as explicit.
Tolkien didn't telegraph that, like, Boromir ring stealer,
Oh, right. That would have been, yeah.
They'd have been like, wait a minute, what's going to happen next? Why do they call him the ring stealer?
It can't be helped.
I know. Okay, well, let's start at the where they at the beginning when they said they can come in, but they have to leave their weapons at the door. Okay, so they're talking to Hama,
and
they're like he seems like a pretty straight up dude.
Yeah, door warden,
right? But like when they're like, okay, like Legolas takes off his his bow and arrow and his knives, and Gandalf puts Glamdring down, and then Aragorn all of a sudden is just like, I'm not going to leave my sword out here. What are you, nuts?
Right. Yeah, it becomes a weird bone of contention.
Yeah. It's like, dude, you're really going to die on this hill or what?
Right. That's good. I mean, I guess you could say that his sword has the most glorious legacy.
Yeah,
I mean, even though Glamdring's not to be sneezed at, it's a great sword of Gondolin or whatever, but it didn't cut the ring off of Sauron's finger in the Second Age or whatever. You know what I mean?
Arguably the scariest thing for Sauron to see would be Anduril.
Right. But you're right. So it's funny that he's like, no, I don't want to do that. And then he's like, he lays it down. Because remember a few chapters ago when like Aragorn's like, look at my sword, guys. Like he uses his sword as like this calling card, and we kind of made fun of that.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of making fun of it again because he's like, screw you. My sword's so much more important than you guys is. It's so much longer.
You know what Aragorn did in this? Like Aragorn pulled the "Do you know who I am?"
again. Yeah. So he kind of did that. So that when and then Gandalf kind of easily gave up Glamdring, but he was loath to give up his staff.
Right.
That's causing Aragorn to say, "Every man has something too dear to trust to another. But would you part an old man from his support? Come, will you not let us enter?" So this idea of the guys eventually give up their swords, but then the staff is allowed through. Everyone knows this, but it's just interesting that he lets the staff through as a token, as a gesture of courtesy, I guess, to the elderly Gandalf, who kind of supposes that, I'm so old, I'm and infirm, I need my staff.
I'm just an old man.
But it's so weird.
Forget the fact that I just killed a Balrog.
right, and did psychic war with Sauron. But it's just very funny because it's ironic because Gandalf uses this staff, first claiming that he needs it because he's so old and decrepit. He uses this staff to kind of literally enlighten Theoden. Yes. And then when Theoden finally kind of gathers his old strength back, rises, he says, "Oh, I don't need my staff anymore because my staff was a crutch that I, withered and gray, needed to hold myself up." And now Theoden casts aside his staff. So it was just an interesting kind of like juxtaposition of this need of a staff. Gandalf's pretending to need the staff. All he really needs it for is to do a little bit of kind of zany light magic.
Pocus.
A little bit of hocus pocus so that old Theoden can have a change of heart and look at things in a new light, literally.
Well, while we're on Theoden, this, I think, and I don't know if this has ever been, this was like really where Gandalf's ring comes into play. And I don't think it's mentioned, but I mean, he had to like really dig deep to rekindle the fire in the heart of Theoden. Did he not? And that's kind of what Narya does. Am I saying that right? Narya, right?
The ring?
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue that. So you're thinking it's the ring that rekindled the fire in the heart of Theoden and not the staff so much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's specifically why Gandalf was given the ring, because he had to, like, you know, metaphorically, like, light the fire in the hearts of men, right?
Right.
And that's what he did. So I would argue that the ring had more to do with Theoden, like, coming around, like Narya, than the actual staff. The staff might have, like, you know, been like a wand, for lack of a, like, you know.
Right, but the actual power comes from the ring.
I think so.
Or the ring allows the natural character of Gandalf or the natural powers of Gandalf to be augmented or amplified through this ring mechanism that somehow.
Right.
Yeah. Because each ring is given to its user based on the qualities of the user, really, right? Or like, I don't know.
Yeah, but I like the one thing though that I did think was cool that that Jackson did really well in the movie was how basically there's a fight for Theoden between Gandalf and Saruman. Like when Gandalf hit Theoden in the head with the staff, which, you know, comes into play, it knocks Saruman back, and he had a bruise on his head. I felt that was an effective use of kind of reading between the lines of this chapter, like in the movie. I thought that was a really good choice that Jackson made to show that, you know, like more through like less through Wormtongue and more through Saruman, that you know how much trouble Theoden was in, and how, like, he was, you know, they had their meat hooks into him, so to speak.
Okay, so, right. Yeah. So because, I mean, basically, if we were just to read this chapter, it looks like Grima Wormtongue has his hooks into into Theoden, but actually he's just a go-between, a sycophant for working for on behalf of Saruman, and you don't really realize that till later. But you're saying that you liked how Jackson made that a little bit more explicit, that connection.
Yeah, well, it was more of a fight between Gandalf and Saruman.
We talked last episode about how Gandalf is like recognized, you know, he's like a new guy. And again, this is like the more short-tempered, I'm not effing around Gandalf.
Yeah, and also, like, in this chapter, he again pulls out, you know, like he's using his you know, wizard magic. You know,
right. He's a little bit like more. I think he realizes that pressure's on and things are happening. And since he's done battle with the Balrog and done battle with Sauron recently, I think he sees, like, I don't have time to mess around anymore. I need to, like, though it might take a lot out of me, I need to, you know, apply myself and apply my powers more actively.
Well, I think he realizes that, you know, for sure that time is of the essence. Like he doesn't have 17 years to go on a quest to, you know, find out if Frodo has one ring, you know.
Right. Do some research, write a thesis.
Do some research, you know, look around and, you know, no big deal.
We'll figure this out eventually.
Like, let's pick the most helpless beings in Middle Earth and just leave the most powerful weapon with them.
for like decade.
Yeah. No problem.
No problem.
Yeah, no, Bilbo will be okay.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, I know. It's
It
hilarious.
will always is. Anyway, I did notice though, it's interesting. Like, okay, so Theoden gets kind of cured here with Gandalf's hocus pocus stuff, but I always thought like we're starting to get into what feels like mythological terms in like human mythological terms, like Beowulf, and obviously Tolkien's an Anglo-Saxon scholar and has written about Beowulf, and the Rohirrim are notoriously like representative of the Anglo-Saxons. But like in like old European mythology, there's this trope or this archetype of like the injured king, or the weak king who's like dying, usually injured or dying, and he's waiting for like the hero of the story to come heal him. So I'm thinking of like in Chrétien de Troyes' Parsifal, there's like the Fisher King with the wound, and he's like basically castrated, and he has to wait for the hero to come rescue him and save the land. That kind of thing.
I mean, the Terry Gilliam film.
Yeah, I think obviously it makes reference to that, right? It makes reference to that. So, but another thing is like, I know Theoden has a son.
Yes,
but for he had a son. But for the Fisher King story of old, that idea that he doesn't actually have an heir because he's been like spiritually castrated, it comes into play there too. So like, there's a question of succession for Theoden, and that made me actually think that there's interesting parallels between Theoden and Denethor, because both men lost their wives in like a long time ago in childbirth. And both of them lost their eldest son, who would be their heir. Denethor lost Boromir, and Theoden lost Theodred. So there's a lot of parallels going on with these kings, or in Denethor's case, a steward. But I'm just now noticing those overlappings, those parallels, and how they kind of work into this old kind of old lore of like European folklore or mythologies, where the king is ill, sick, weak. He's waiting for someone to come and rouse him, heal him, or whatever like that. So.
Well, it worked on Theoden. Denethor, we'll wait for another chapter.
Right.
But
right. Well, yeah. But both men. I mean, here, luckily Theoden, maybe because he was constitutionally more inclined to be optimistic or whatever. But here, like Denethor was despairing, and I think the death of Theodred made him despair. Made him, instead of like, well, I lost my son. Screw that. I'm gonna like buck up and arm up and let's go into battle and get revenge. It was like, oh well, it's all for nothing. I'm just gonna sit here and like waste away. And that's kind of what Denethor was doing. He's like, my son's dead. I have nothing to live for, and despair kind of took him.
Yeah, but that despair was compounded with Saruman and Wormtongue. I honestly, if Theoden strikes me as the type of dude that would be like, oh damn, my son died. If he was like in his normal mind, better get back on that horse, or I don't know, something, or hey, did you ever remember in the Ralph Bakshi film, Wormtongue? Like you see Wormtongue way before Rohan giving Saruman a staff, like when Gandalf is there, like so.
Oh yeah,
kind of yeah.
Before they even arrive at Rohan.
Yeah. That's it was when they did the flashback of Gandalf when he was battling Saruman. So
okay, yeah, because you don't really know anything about Wormtongue really until he appears in this chapter. So his first mention's on page 664, and that is the King of the Golden Hall.
Okay.
Where they meet the guard. A troubled look came into the guard's eyes. Of Eomer, I have naught to say, he answered. So that when they're meeting him, the guard, the first guard, not Hama, I think.
Yeah.
If what you tell me is true, then doubtless Theoden will have heard it. maybe your coming was not wholly unlooked for, but 2 nights ago, it is 2 nights ago that Wormtongue came to us and said that by the will of Theoden, no stranger should pass these gates.
Ooh, dang.
So I guess Wormtongue's coming and going between, Edoras and Isengard, I assume. Yeah. And he comes and says, hey, don't let any strangers in, because Saruman's probably thinking Gandalf's going to go to Theoden and try to convert Theoden to the cause.
Yes, which he did. And Saruman was very wise to like have Wormtongue say nobody inside the Golden Hall at all.
Right. Well, cool. Well, we figured that one out.
But again, it's at this point, the whole Wormtongue thing, it's a telegraph, but not much of one, because
what, that his name is Wormtongue?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just an insult that the common folk of Rohan give to him because they don't like him, because they feel like, oh, he's not a good influence on our king. It's interesting that Gandalf rouses Theoden to take up arms, and then here comes Wormtongue, and he's like, "Dear Lord," cried Wormtongue, "it is as I feared. This wizard has bewitched you. Are none to be left to defend the golden hall of your fathers, and all your treasure, none to guard the Lord of the Mark? If this is bewitchment," said Theoden, "it seems to me more wholesome than your whisperings." So basically, Wormtongue is like, he eventually says something like, no one loves you as much as I do because I'm the one that's trying to keep you safe.
Right.
Whereas these people just want you to go off to war where you will surely die.
Right.
So it's that weird kind of like almost like, I love you more because I'm going to nanny you to death.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like now that Wormtongue is been exposed, you can really see how much of a worm he is. He's really trying to just kind of weasel out of worm his way out of every scenario.
He's trying to worm his way out. I mean, Gollum seems very you could take pity on him. This guy just seems a little bit, although Gandalf does speak on his behalf and say he wasn't always like this. I'm surprised there isn't an online community devoted to Wormtongue apologetics. He's like an incel.
Yeah.
He's just trying to get the girl he likes. But
if they were
Alpha brothers cock blocking him or whatever.
Yeah. He'd be wearing a fedora.
Wearing a fedora is trying to be super pragmatic and but we need to make alliances with Saruman.
Yes, and then I can get and basically all of this treachery is because he wanted Eowyn. You know what I'm saying? It's it says nothing about treasure or anything like that. So basically, he sold out all of Rohan for the chance to
for the ladies.
So
in that way, he's the uber romantic.
Yes,
he's the ultimate.
He's like romantic. A Cyrano de Bergerac. I don't know.
He's a ladies' man. Never saw Wormtongue as a ladies' man.
No, but
maybe he's really good at. Do you think he's good at cunnilingus with his wormy tongue?
Oh,
I know that's terrible. I'm so disgusted.
Gross.
This is a family show.
Yeah, but no, it's again. This is, he again one of the characters that when you think about Theoden taking pity on him in the same way that everybody's taking pity on Gollum, right? Because he still has a part to play at the end of the story. He still has a something to do, which is kill Saruman. Right. But
Oh, I found the place where Gandalf speaks almost in defense of Wormtongue, where Wormtongue's like, you lie, when he's saying you're in league with Saruman, basically. And Gandalf says, that word comes too oft and easy from your lips, said Gandalf. I do not lie. See, Theoden, here is a snake. With safety you cannot take it with you, nor can you leave it behind. To slay it would be just, but it was not always as it now is. Once it was a man, and did you service in its fashion. Give him a horse and let him go. So he's like, he used to do you service. He used to be a man. I mean, he's like really corrupt, but you shouldn't slay him. And that was the kind of thing like Gandalf often said when Bilbo was like, why didn't we just slay Gollum while we had the chance?
Oh yeah,
or no, Frodo. Frodo. Why didn't Bilbo just slay him while he had the chance? And it was like, it was pity that stayed his hand.
The quote is like, it's a pity that that Bilbo didn't slay the creature when he had the chance. Like, pity? I dare say it was. But even like all of the villains that aren't Sauron or Saruman, even Saruman was good at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of them are just like, this is what happens when you sell out, when when the corruption sets in. With Gollum, with Wormtongue.
I mean, originally the evil characters in the Silmarillion, like in the Anu Lindale or whatever, they were the only thing that made them evil was they just couldn't sing.
Yeah.
Like they were like, ah. No, they were like discordant.
Yeah,
they sang with a discordant voice. So it's kind of like Bob Dylan is like the ultimate evil person.
Bob Dylan could be Melkor.
He could be Melkor.
Yeah.
Sorry for all the Bob Dylan fans out there.
Yeah, sorry, we didn't mean to compare him to the ultimate evil, but there it is.
Who's the worst singer, though? I mean,
yeah, I mean,
trying to think of a bad singer who's also famous as a singer. He's the only one I can think. Billy Corgan. I don't know.
Billy Corgan. Billy Corgan's not a terrible singer. He's got a weak voice.
An odd voice. I mean, he can hit notes, but it's a little bit of an odd, scratchy.
He's got a really thin voice.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Yeah, much like Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah. Not this day.
Not this day.
That always bothered me.
Because
he was trying to do Mel Gibson's Braveheart speech.
Yeah.
And Mel Gibson has the pipes to like, not this day.
Listen to Theoden, like calling forth the Rohirrim.
Yeah.
Like in Jackson's movies, like, damn, that guy's got some pipes. And then
right. I'm surprised that Jackson didn't I don't know, put some kind of
put a pitch shifter on his voice and like
put a resonator and like a reverb pedal.
Yeah. Like Viggo Mortensen just
great actor, but he doesn't have
he was good, but when he started like but it'll be not this day. He sounded like almost sinister. I don't know.
It wasn't as it was. I noticed it, and I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Yeah, it wasn't. He will never take our freedom. Yeah, wasn't that
right? Oh well.
Yeah,
he's still a good actor. Anyway, otherwise, great performance.
He did a great job. Great job.